Welcome back to Zimmerly Eats, and today we're gonna make some more salami. This time it's gonna be a venison salami. And so, first and foremost, you gotta start with rehydrating your starter cultures. We're gonna do, we've got like a little over 3 pounds of salami, so we're gonna put a teaspoon of this FLC starter culture into about half a cup of water, and you're gonna want to use non-chlorinated water. So distilled water, spring water, just not tap water, because the chlorine in tap water and some tap waters can actually kill the cultures, and that would be counterintuitive. So what we're gonna do is gonna let this sit for about 20 minutes, get that little swirl, and that'll give you time to weigh out your curing salts and your spices for your flavor profiles for your salami. All right, guys, so what we have here is some venison and pork belly that I brought to my local butcher, which happens to be conveniently right down at the end of my street. So I've got like 70% lean meat to 30% fat, which is, like I said before, your ideal ratio from lean meat to fat. And so what you need to really pay attention to is your salts, your curing salts, and the amount that you put in your meat. So a general rule of thumb is gonna be you weigh your meat out, and then you base that weight, or you take that weight and weigh 2.5% of your kosher salt or sea salt, and 0.25, that's the important one, is 0.25% of your preg powder number 1 or 2, depending on your dry cured meats. The size casings we're gonna use are gonna take a little more than a month, so we're gonna use preg powder number 2. So I've got, like I said, 2.5% of sea salt and 0.25% of this weight being curing salt, which is the important one you want to follow every single time. 0.25% of your weight of the meat. And then here I've got our flavor profile that I've put together, and that's something else that you can play around with, and doesn't always have to be exact. It's to your preference. So we've got about a tablespoon of black pepper, and a tablespoon of cumin, and then I've got a couple teaspoons of celery seed. So that's what we're working with today. So what we will add first is our curing salts that have been weighed out. And this all needs to be thoroughly mixed into the meat. And then we will add our spices. All right, and so since we're fermenting this salami, we're gonna weigh out, you're gonna use anywhere between 0.3 to 0.5% of your weight of the meat in powdered dextrose, which is going to be your food for your starter culture to feed on, so your meat will ferment to the correct pH level. So we've got 0.4% of powdered dextrose. And so at this point, we're going to thoroughly mix all of this in. And then we will add our starter culture. Go ahead and add this culture. This has been rehydrating for a good 30 minutes now. And like I said, this is gonna feed on the dextrose in your recipe, which will ferment the meat. And that produces lactic acid, which lowers the pH. And this particular starter culture should take about 48 hours to fully ferment. So here in a couple of days, we'll check on it, and we'll hang it in our dry curing chamber. So finished mixing, what you should have is a tacky mixture that when you hold it upside down like that, it will not fall. And that's how you know that it is properly mixed and ready for your next step, which is going to be to put it in the stuffer. Alright, you guys, so what I have here is some beef niddles that I've ordered online, and you can order them through Amazon. There's a company called the Sausage Maker that also has them. So we're just gonna prepare our stuffer. What we've done is we've stuffed it, and then we push the meat through the tube to the end, and then we're going to put the casing on. And at the very end, you know, take a piece of string, some butcher twine that you can also get at your butcher, and tie it off. Alright, and at this point, you will begin to just slowly stuff your salami. I like to get it tight, so get an even salami throughout. So just tie off this link, which will make one link, and then give it another inch or so, and then tie that off and start another link. That way you can cut that in half with no problems with the opening. And just repeat. All right, and just so you can see, we've got these two links, and of course, there's a lot more meat to stuff, but just so you can see, we've got these two right here, and these will be ready to go to ferment. And so what you're gonna do, we'll cut this in half. Okay, now that you've got your casing stuffed, what you're gonna do is you're gonna get a sterilized needle or a sausage pricker if you have one, but just make sure it's sterilized, and you're gonna poke some holes in your salami to make sure any air in there is gonna escape, because you don't want any of your pockets in there. So just some holes just all around, and you're gonna do that to all of them. And what you're gonna do is weigh these out once they're done fermenting, and then throughout, once it's aging and drying, we'll track the weight loss throughout the duration of that. All right, so what I've done is I have gotten all the stuffed salamis that have been pricked with a sterilized needle or sausage pricker. And what we're gonna do is put the lids on these, and we're gonna leave them out for 48 hours for this particular starter culture to ferment. And then, and like I said, whatever's left in your in the sausage stuffer at the bottom, because there will be some left, you can save that to, if you have a pH reader, you can test for pH after that 48 hours is up. If it's at the right pH between about 4.9 to 5.3, that's your safe zone, and then it's safe to hang, dry, and age. Okay, so this is about 48 hours later. I have drained the little bit. You'll notice there'll be a little
bit of moisture or juice that has been released from the meat, and that's because of the salt and the fermentation process. And you'll also notice that your meat is a little bit of brighter color, and that's a good sign. That's also a sign that it has been fully fermented. So what I've done is I've drained any of the excess liquid that's in there, and I've placed hooks on here. And like I said, if you have set aside some of your meat that was left in the stuffer after stuffing, you can test that for pH, which you're gonna shoot for a 4.9 to a 5.3 pH level. So if you wanted to and you have a pH reader, you can test for pH. So what we're gonna do is go ahead and hang these into our chamber. So what we're gonna do now, this is one of my 2 curing chambers. My other one is packed full of different salamis and cured meats. So as you can see, I've already hung up some of this salami that we're working on right now, and so I'm just hanging the rest so you guys can see. And let me just elaborate a little bit on this curing chamber. Like I said, we'll set one up in another video, but this curing chamber has some gauges in it that I've wired into here. This is I'm using Inkbird humidity and temperature gauges, and I've got it hooked up to this fridge. It's a little dorm room fridge, and so I've got that all hooked up, and this is set at 55 degrees Fahrenheit and about 80% humidity is what I try to keep it at, and that'll be perfect conditions for all of this to dry evenly without any kind of over drying or not drying fast enough. And so this is the perfect condition for this stuff to dry at. So we're gonna track the weight on all of this. This is all the salami that we just made, and we're gonna track the weight loss. What we're shooting for is 38 to 40% weight loss. All right guys, so we are about a week and a half in, and we're starting to get some white mold growth on our venison salami, which is encouraged because this will fight off any black mold or any bad molds that you don't want. And this, I did not place this mold on here, but it was already present in the chamber because of this piece of meat right here that I did inoculate with the white mold. This white mold is also known as Penicillium naujovense, and you can find that online. So we'll just continue to keep an eye on all this mold growth and make sure there's no bad molds, and we'll also track the weight through the next few weeks. Here's another peek into the chamber at about the 2-week mark, and we are seeing significantly more white mold, which is, like I said, a good thing. And fortunately, no bad molds have been spotted. And we have this little thinner piece that we might be able to slice into sooner than all the others. So we'll see you then. All right guys, so we've got a stick of our venison salami that we've pulled from the chamber. This is hit about, we've tracked the weight for the past about 5 weeks, and it's hit 38% weight loss. And we've also tracked the white mold growth, which is looking totally good, and it's absolutely edible. But if you wanted to store this like in a vacuum sealed bag, you would just want to brush off the mold and rinse it off with a vinegar water solution 50-50 ratio. So let's go ahead and slice into this. Let's see how it tastes. All right. Ooh, it looks great. Smells great. And it tastes amazing. Comes out great every time. So if you like the recipe, try it out. As always, subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching.